Such overhead expenses are the ones that are fixed in nature and don't get impacted by increase or decrease in production activities. Such overhead expenses are the ones that vary in direct proportion to the volume of output. Semi-variable overhead expenses are ones which are partly fixed and partly variable in nature. Hello everyone, I am Arun Kumar, lecturer in Department of Commerce and Management, Vidhyaashram First Grade College, the Temple of Excellence, MYSURU. Dear students, welcome to this new session on unit number 4, session 1. The topic is overhead. So yes, dear students, in this session we will be learning about overheads. So what is overheads? First we have to know the meaning of overheads, then only we can move forward with respect to this topic. So what are the overheads costs? So cost is nothing but the expenditure. So what is this overhead cost? So overhead cost is nothing but overhead cost or those costs that is not related directly on the production activity. Yes, overhead cost is not directly related to the productional activities. For example, to produce a product, what and all you required? Obviously machinery you required, and the direct labor you required, and the raw materials required, right? Raw materials required, labors required. So these are all the components which are directly related to the productional activities. But with respect to overheads, they are not directly related to the productional activities and therefore considered as indirect cost that have to be paid even if there is no production. Yes, overheads are not the direct expenditures or they are not directly related to the productional activities. Therefore, those overheads or expenditures are considered as indirect cost. Yes, it is considered as indirect cost that have to be paid even if there is no production. Yes, if you are producing the product or not, okay, but you are supposed to pay the overheads, the indirect cost that will not affect or that will not show any kind of effect with respect to your production. So whether you are producing the product or not producing the product in the factory, but you are supposed to pay the indirect wages. And examples include, yes, examples for overheads: rent payable. Yes, if you are running the business or the factory in a rented property or in a rented building or in a rented place, so you are supposed to pay the rent to that particular property whether you are producing the product or not. Okay, for example, for 8 months you produced a product, for next 4 months there is no production activities, but still you have to pay rent, right? So that is called indirect cost. Indirect cost with respect to which is related to your productional activities. Next example, utilities payable and insurance payable. Yes, utilities payable or insurance payable. So you are going to take an insurance on, like for example, fire insurance. Even though you are not running, you are not producing the product, you are supposed to pay the insurance premium, fire insurance premium. So that will not related to your productional activities, whether you are producing the product or not, but you are supposed to pay the insurance cost. Next, salaries payable to office staff. Yes, if you are hired any office staff, even though they are not producing the product, if the office people are working, then you are supposed to pay salary to the office people. So that is also an indirect cost. Next, office supplies, for example, stationeries. So whatever the stationeries you are purchasing, that will not relate to your production activity. Whether you are producing the product or not, you are supposed to pay the amount for stationeries. So that is also called the indirect cost. So what is this overheads? Overheads are not the direct cost which is relating to the productional activities. Therefore, it is considered as, yes, it is considered as what? It is considered as indirect cost, and the indirect cost have to be paid even if there is no productional activities. Yes, indirect cost or the overhead is supposed to be paid even though there is no productional activities. So what are the examples for overheads? The examples are rent payable and utilities payable, insurance payable, salaries payable to office staff and office supplies. So this is the meaning of overhead. It is not directly related to the productional activities. So that is what is called indirect cost, and this indirect cost is supposed to be payable to the particular employees or to the particular expenditure, even though if there is no productional activities conducted in your business. Next, moving further, types of overhead costs. Yes, types of overhead cost. In overheads, that is in expenses, we have different types. So which are those? In this, the first one is fixed overhead. So now here you are supposed to know the meaning of fixed overhead. Then it will be very clear to you to understand the concept of overhead. So what is the first type of overhead? It is fixed overhead. So what is fixed overhead? Such overhead expenses are the ones that are fixed in nature and don't get impacted by increase or decrease in production activities. Yes, fixed overhead is nothing but it's an expenditure which is always constant. It is always constant. It will not get changed according to the increase or decrease of productional activities. Okay, you are producing 8,000 units of products. Okay, 8,000 units of products. Suddenly you increase it to 10,000. You increased it to 10,000 units, and after a few days you decreased it to 6,000 units. See, whether you are producing 8,000 units, 10,000 units or 6,000 units of products, this fixed overhead, fixed expenditure remained fixed. Okay, it remains fixed. It will not get changed. Or volume of output manufactured by the business. Yes, that means whatever we are producing, whether the production activity increases or decreases, this fixed overhead, fixed expenditure remains fixed. It will not get changed as the production activities changes. These overheads are fixed within a specified limit and not influenced by managerial actions up to such limit. Yes, to certain limit, to maximum extent, fixed overheads are fixed. They are not changeable, or they will not get changed. The fixed overheads will not get changed as per your production activities. Only in some scenarios that might get changed, okay, due to the managerial decisions. Except those decisions, this overheads will not get changed. Which one? The fixed overheads. So which are the examples for fixed overheads? So fixed overhead examples include rent and depreciation. So these are all the two examples. We have few more examples for that. So rent, for example, see whether you are producing 6,000 units, 8,000 units or 10,000 units of products. For example, if the rent is fixed like 10,000 rupees, okay, rent is 10,000 rupees. See whether you are producing 6,000 or 8,000 or 10,000 units of products, but you are supposed to pay the rent of 10,000. So this rent is an expenditure. So it is fixed. Okay, rent is fixed. You are supposed to pay 10,000 whether you are producing 20,000 units, 1 lakh units, or even though you are not producing the products also, you are supposed to pay the rent. So that is why the rent is called fixed overhead. I hope now you understood the concept. Next one, depreciation. Okay, depreciation on furniture, depreciation on plant and machinery, depreciation on computers, depreciation on motor vehicles. For example, depreciation on machinery. Okay, on machinery you are giving depreciation of 15,000. Okay, you are giving depreciation of 15,000. See whether you are producing the products or not, whether you are producing 6,000, 8,000 or 10,000 units, but you are supposed to give the depreciation of 15,000 on a particular machinery at the end of the year. So here fixed overheads is nothing but few expenditures or few overheads are fixed. They will not get changed as the production activities changes. Like the production activities increases or decreases, the overheads will not get changed. So let us move to the next one. So next one is variable overheads. The second type is variable overheads. First one is fixed overhead. Second one is variable overhead. So what is variable overhead? So variable overhead here, such overhead expenses are the ones that vary in direct proportion to the volume of output. Yes, variable is nothing but get changing, fluctuating. So according to your productional level, the cost will also get changed. So here you can see direct proportion to the volume of output. That means whatever the output you are producing, okay, whatever the products you are producing, how many units you are producing, based on that, that expenditure will also get changed. These overhead expenses are directly affected by business activity. Yes, variable overhead is directly affected by the business activity. Based upon how many units you are producing, we are going to decide the variable cost. Okay. So variable expenses or variable overhead examples includes shipping expenses and advertisement cost, etc. For example, shipping expenses. Say if you are purchasing raw material of 10 tons, for 10 tons you will be charging like around 1000 rupees of transportation cost. Okay, you will be charging 1000 rupees of transportation cost. In case if you are purchasing 2 tons of raw material, he might charge you 1500 rupees of transportation cost. If you are producing 3 to 4 tons of raw materials, he might charge you 2000 rupees of transportation cost. So based on how much quantity of raw material you are purchasing, he will charge you the transportation cost. And advertisement cost. Okay, advertisement cost. Say to advertise the product, it is based upon for how many minutes you are giving, how many minutes of advertising you wanted to advertise in different types of medias, whether in newspaper or in TV channels or in radio, wherever you want to display the advertisements. Based upon the content, based upon the duration, they are going to charge. For example, if you want to advertise 1 minute video, they might charge you 50,000 rupees. Okay, they might charge you 50,000. If you want to advertise 2 minutes video, they might charge you 1,50,000. They might charge you 1,50,000. So here few costs are based upon how you are going to spend and how you are going to produce, based upon the productional activities, based upon the business activities. This overheads will get changed. So for that, the example is shipping expenses and advertising cost. Next, moving further, semi-variable overheads. So what is this semi-variable overheads? Semi-variable overheads is nothing but semi-variable overhead expenses are ones which are partly fixed and partly variable in nature. So it is not fully fixed or it is not fully variable. So it is partly fixed and partly variable. As such, they contain fixed and variable elements, and therefore don't fluctuate in direct proportion to business output. Semi-variable overhead examples include telephone charges. Yes, here semi-variable is nothing but partly fixed, partly variable. For certain limit, it will be fixed. If the limit crosses, the value will be changed. For example, you are producing 10,000 units of product. Okay, you are producing 10,000 units of products. So if you are producing 10,000 units of products, for example, you are paying wages in the production department, wages of rupees 5,000. In case if the productional activity increases to 15,000 units, then you are paying 7,000 rupees of wages. So as the production increases, for certain limit it is fixed. Up to 10,000 units, it is fixed 5,000 wages. If he is producing 15,000 units, you are producing 7,000 rupees of wages. So as the production increases, the cost, the variable cost will also increases. So for certain limit it is fixed, and after that it varies based upon the productional level. So here telephone charges is given based upon how many calls you are going to make. It is fixed. For example, they'll give 100 calls, 100 free calls. So up to 100 calls, it is fixed, like you are supposed to pay 1000 rupees. If the number of calls crosses 100, then you are supposed to pay additional 10 rupees for each call. Okay, so for certain limit it is fixed. After that, again some value of expenditure will be added. So that is called semi-variable overhead. That means some part will be fixed and some part will be varied based upon the productional activities. So next, moving on, basic allocation of overheads. So basic allocation of overheads. So how we are going to allocate the overheads? For example, factory rent. So factory rent is an expenditure. So on what you are going to pay factory rent? Based on floor area. Based on floor area. Whether it's 100 square feet or 200 square feet or 300 square feet. Based upon the floor area, we are going to allocate the factory rent. Next one, advertisement. So advertisement will be based upon sales. Okay, we will allocate the advertisement based upon sales. Next one, canteen expenses. Yes, based upon number of employees. If number of employees are 10, if the canteen expenditure is, how much? 1000 rupees. So 100 rupees each, like that. Next, power. So power will be allocated based upon kilowatts. Okay. Next, carriage inward. That means carriage inward, whatever the amount you are paying for transportation cost, that is on purchase. Next, depreciation. So depreciation is based on value of assets, value of machinery, value of furniture, value of laptop, based on that. Insurance, based on value of stock. Next, supervisor charges, number of employees. Next, manager salary. So manager salary based upon number of employees. Next, staff recreation. Again, it is also based on number of employees. Next, maintenance. It is based on value of assets. Next, indirect material based on direct material. So this is how you are supposed to allocate the different expenditures with respect to different items. So if you know this allocation, then easily you are going to get 15 marks in your main exam. So in this session, we discussed about what is the meaning of overhead, what are the types of overheads we have, that is fixed overhead, variable overhead and semi-variable overhead, and also we discussed basic allocation of overheads. So with this, I am going to wind up this session. In the upcoming session, I am going to solve a few problems with respect to unit number 4, that is overheads. Until then, thank you all. Have a nice day. Namaste.